Good morning, Trumptopia. Happy day after Thanksgiving. We blew right past day 666 of the reign. The presidency of Donald Trump, the installation. What do you call it? The administration, the Trump administration. That's a nice neutral, traditional term that no one should get offended by. We blew right past it, and I suppose that is the very first thing we should be thankful for today on the day after Thanksgiving. We should all take a moment, my dear fellow Trumptopians, to pause and express some deep gratitude that, to the best of our knowledge, day 366 of Donald Trump's presidency didn't happen to also be some epic, tragic day of demonic proportions with portals opening and demons sweeping us all up into some apocalypse. Now, I know, let me pause here. Let me pause the pausation. I know, I'm fully aware that there is great suffering throughout Trumptopia. Not only here, but everywhere throughout the world, people are suffering. I do not mean to make light of it. I do mean to make light of all the conspiracy theory literature, let us call it, for lack of a better term, that has been and is continuing to sort of simmer away at the extreme fringes of dear old Donald Trump's serious fan base. As any serious long-term listener will recall, I've brought to your attention on more than one occasion strange, bizarre beliefs that are publicly held by human beings on this planet, not limited to the population of and the base supporters, of the Republican Party or of Donald Trump's fan base here in America. As I commented on social media, I think when I had lost track of the days because I was on hiatus and I was focusing on personal objectives and not really, although continuing to sample the crazy on an unavoidably daily basis just to make sure we weren't teetering on the edge of some nuclear holocaust anytime soon. I didn't really focus my energies on the commentary and on the gathering of deeper information beyond skimming the headlines. But I digress. Returning to this humble, and I know I apologize to you, dear listeners, often disorganized and scatterbrained podcast project, audio journal blog, role play, fantasy, fictional, whatever this is, because it's not, okay, I'm not fake news because this is an opinion show. I am a fictional character. For those of you who don't know and haven't clued in, there's a whole episode about it. And I'm thinking of producing a cool, sort of well-edited and science fiction-y kind of with lots of effects and stuff episode that I might title Allow Myself to Reintroduce Myself, or something a little bit more eloquent than that. But for the time being, I've decided to just hit the ground running and get back to the nitty-gritty act of almost daily journaling and sharing my thoughts and concerns about the world at large and the intersection of our popular culture, our political culture, our spiritual culture, our organized religious cultures, because those are all different planes in which there's a lot of intersections, but we we try to silo them in our society. But I digress. There's a lot to be grateful for beyond the simple and absurd notion that a 666 conspiracy thing didn't happen around Trump and the day 666 of his presidency, right? Like the most direct and scary and obvious one that I was sort of like, ooh, wouldn't it be weird and trippy if it actually happened? That I didn't see a lot of buzz about on the internet, but that I heard some like thing, development, like there was some buzz developing in this direction during the election cycle. And that's that he's a lizard person, an Altarian, or what do you call them? I just woke up, folks. So, and yesterday was Thanksgiving. So I'm not like, I don't have my deep research here tabbed up in my computer brain. But I thought, wouldn't it be brilliant if this movie that we're all living through together turned out to be the one where he, on day 666, in fulfillment of the crazy theory that he uses that hand gesture that some conspiracy theorists insist is the worldwide Illuminati gesture for, like, we are Satanists. Because there's a good Illuminati and a bad Illuminati, but that's a whole other episode. I digress. I was hoping he'd, like, rip off his fake human, skin suit and go, and be like, I am a turkey person. No, that'd just been funny if it was, for Thanksgiving. And there were people doing, like, President Turkey memes. There was a President Turkey refuses to forgive the Trump ball turkey or something, and they put Trump's face on a turkey. But that's not where I'm going. But Anunnaki, that's it. Like, I thought he'd be like, I am Anunnaki, I'm here to steal your gold. But somehow still manage to sound like Trump, which I can't do. And I didn't plan that. So I should, next time, when I go back to do an edit pass, like a studio version of this, I'll lay down some tracks of me doing some iterations of an impression of, like, this is what an Anunnaki might sound like, and this is what Donald Trump actually sounds like. Can we get them to a happy, comedic middle ground where you can tell that's obviously Trump Anunnaki, or Anunnaki Trump, whichever would be the correct power couple terminology for a Trump that turns out to be an Anunnaki. But lo and behold, thank you, whatever powers they may be out there that are puppeteering this universe. That isn't the movie we're all trapped in together. It didn't happen on day 666 of dear old Donald Trump's turn in power. And so we can all kind of take a deep breath and sigh of relief. I know that this isn't a very strong or popular or well-known conspiracy theory, but it's actually one that's been trotted out multiple times for presidents in the past. I promise you that as a person who's been very fascinated with the activities around politics and the implications of the question regarding whether to participate in it or abdicate it completely, I've been fascinated by this whole series of issues of just honestly observing politics and people's human behavior around it. I don't buy into every conspiracy theory that I read. In fact, my personal conspiracy theory, and I can't recall right now if I've done a really deep dive into this, so I'll just give you the short stack right now. What if every conspiracy theory, either by design or by having been hijacked, and by hijacked I mean some actual person somewhere developed the theory because they saw a pattern somewhere in their mind, but then agents of the system of oppression, gathered that theory up and hijacked it, stole it, appropriated it, reappropriated it, and, infiltrated or infused it with all the agenda driving propaganda, or propaganda driving agenda, brainwashing stuff. And then, as I've posited before, I think there is plenty of evidence scattered throughout our society, both in history and in our contemporary space of just this past several decades, that you can see evidence of a deep hijacking of cultural institutions. By whom? Who knows? But the hijacking seems to be of a high and subtle order of operation. My personal theory on who the hijacker is and how the hijacking happens is of an esoteric nature. So many people go, huh? What? And sort of tune it out. But that's not what this episode's about. I digress. I return to the point. There's a lot of crazy conspiracy theory type things out there. Right? Like, pick one of your favorite. Like, let's use an example real quick. And let's remember as we move forward through this thought discussion, this thought experiment, exploration of conspiracy theories and how they work in our society. There's, for every one that you know of, there's a dozen more you haven't heard of. What I find fascinating about them is they tend to either gravitate towards a divisive theme or place or like pressure point in society, or create one. Like flat Earth, conspiracy theory that we've been lied to. The globe model of the world is a hoax that's been perpetrated on us for nefarious reasons, etc., etc., etc. I'm not judging it. I'm trying to point out a feature of it that I think people don't understand or often discredit. And that's that it gravitates towards or creates a division point, a nexus of conflict, which can then create fissures that connect to other nexuses of conflicts. But by creating a model that insists that everyone believes in something false and has been conditioned to not believe in something that is true, you have this like us versus them polemic that has to be either debated into clarity. Now, I use the word debate there because I think that there might be a proper academic, non-violent, non-argumentative, completely mindless approach to discuss the question, which model is accurate, and find an actual solution to that problem. But what happens, though, is not that. What happens is us versus them. I believe in this model and I am righteous. Therefore, the rest of the believers of this model, we are all the righteous ones. And y'all that are against us are the unrighteous ones. And there's no solution because the discussion becomes about that. About we're better than you because we believe in this model. And clearly the model's right. And you can't change our minds. That's what ideologies do to people. But I digress. All conspiracy theories have that in common. Like political ideology, a conspiracy theory creates a culture of, well, we're the sane ones and all you people are the crazy ones. Doesn't matter what the theme or, whether it's Bigfoot or, Atlantis or Anunnakis stealing our gold or vampires draining our blood, whatever the theory is, it creates a division and a conflict point. Just like political ideology. And, to bring the trifecta, because everything flows in trifectas, right? Everything's sacred geometry, so it must. As soon as you get one, you get 2 and 3. You have to. You can't idle there at 1. 1 is just the nexus point by which 2 and 3 unfold. Then you get the whole Fibonacci sequence. But everything in life follows this pattern. And so trifectas are strong places from which whole other patterns can emerge. So whenever you have a conflict point or whenever you have a strong model that operates well, you'll find in it a trifecta of elements acting in strong kind of a pyramid shape in association to each other. To bring in the trifecta here and what I'm talking about, organized religion versus like spiritual traditions or spiritual exploration or spiritual sciences, which we don't really have, but we could. And I argue the ancient mystics, that's what they were doing, was creating what they could in their era of an esoteric, spiritual, inward science. And by science, I mean they weren't just the ones that were seeing things clearly, weren't demanding blind faith. They were guiding people in how to discover to see things clearly. That's reproducing results, right? Boom. It may have not had all the elements of the postmodern scientific method the way we understand it now, but arguably ancient mystics around the world from various cultures that predated organized religions and that contributed to the aha moment of whoever the person labeled as spiritual prophet that maybe did have a really cosmically universal, applicable message about healing and love and forgiveness and transcending our petty arguments, transcending our petty transgressions through forgiveness and healing, etc. All those who had those in common arguably had a real spiritual experience. But I'm just spiraling out of control, aren't I? Gratitude. Thanksgiving. Hello. Thank you for tuning in. I am your absent-minded spiritual scientific professor of madness. I'm going to edit that one because that just, started weak and ended more weak. But I digress. I'm here to lampoon our politics and call to your attention the intersection of spiritual dynamics in all of the way our world works. And politics, just like ideologies and conspiracy theories, distract us from solutions, right? To come full circle in my complete, crazy, unfolding iteration of thought for today, all of those things, conspiracy theories, all of this trifecta of institutions operate in such a way that they generate distraction. From what, you ask? Distraction from what, Mr. Zeppo? You've been pointing at this the whole episode. Distraction from true, deep, genuine investigation of your own inner spiritual topography, your own inner spiritual dimensionality, your own inner spiritual portal or connection to that which is all of the divine thing. That which we might call God. As I've said in previous episodes, the label God as we reduced it to in religion is not sufficient. It is unsatisfactory. That is not what God is. If you think of the word God and you think of something that you learned from or was imposed to accept from religion, as we understand it now, that does not accurately define or depict God to you. So just set that whole imagery aside. Don't get mad at it. Don't get angry at religion. That's a whole thing we can talk about in another episode. But I digress. Let's be grateful that these conspiracy theories never seem to actually come true. That's why I wanted to open today, the day after Gratitude Day. Thanksgiving Day is complicated, and I understand that. I've posted and spoken out against and in favor of Thanksgiving Day from various sides of the division there. But it is, like all holidays, something based on a genuine holy sacrament or a holy ritual or a holy tradition, something that at one point in its development was truly and genuinely intended to be an attempt to commune with that which is divine. And as I was just saying, most of the stuff in our world has been corrupted over the last few centuries in order to actually function in the opposite direction of what arguably it was intended to do, which is not to help us discover our inner spiritual connection to the divine, but distract us from truly understanding how to have an inner connection to that which we call the divine, that which we call gods and goddesses. Gratitude is one of those ingredients. The reason Thanksgiving as a holiday survives, continues to attract people despite its horrific roots in American history. And let's not shun that. Let's not turn a blind eye to that anymore. Yes, we are supposed to be pacifists and turn the other cheek when physical violence is being brought against us. But we're not supposed to be spiritually blinded or neglectful. We must we must understand and comprehend. I was going to say stare the violence directly in the eye, but I wasn't sure if that was going to really make sense. We must accept and comprehend, wrap our brains around, and then understand how to transcend all the horrors of our many centuries of violent history. Human beings have this addiction, and we have a difficult time talking about it. Gratitude is one of those ingredients that has survived throughout different cultural institutions. And while we can quickly and easily get into all the reasons why Turkey Day should be maybe radically reformed, and why we can get into a discussion about why Black Friday today, the very first day after, what was once a spiritual celebration of being able to survive, right? The cornucopia of nature is one of those symbols that goes much, much, much deeper than a centerpiece with food items you don't eat, it was reduced from a spiritual symbol with significance to human beings and meaningful data behind it, meaningful experiential wisdom and knowledge about what does it mean to be able to have a cornucopia full of fruits and vegetables on your table at the end of the harvest. It means knowing how to make all of those things grow. Now it's a table setting piece. Now we have plastic simulacrum of that symbol. It doesn't mean anything anymore, et cetera, right? So and yet, as all these, in every culture, ancient traditions that had some spiritual anchor in them have been hijacked and flipped inside out and turned into commercial profit centers of, sugary and very sort of surfacey family giving. I don't know. They're sort of, everything gets hijacked and perverted, right? We can see that. But my point is, Thanksgiving is one of those traditions that I think arguably might have roots that go back further, right? Many cultures, besides the one that we have this image of, the Pilgrims and the Indians eating together. Many cultures around the world have traditions of giving thanks to the bounty that is provided to us through our engagement, our working with Mother Nature. And although we flattened it down and turned it into a gateway to addictive shopping culture and reinforcement and brainwashing, vis-a-vis the notion that we're doing it so that we can give more, right? We love and we rationalize this commercialism of Thanksgiving because it prepares us and gives us power to give more, as it were. But what we're really doing is just feeding the profiteer's treadmill. But that's a whole nother episode. I digress. Gratitude. one of the things I posted on Instagram yesterday on Thanksgiving Day is gratitude daily, not just on commercial. Somebody else's quote. I wish I'd found that wording myself and could claim it as my own quote. I'm never quite as succinct as those a little bit better at meme making than myself. But my point is that yeah, gratitude is spiritually powerful. When gratitude isn't just about feeling good that we've acquired a specific object to add to our collection of objects that, we've exchanged and done commerce for and engaged in profiteering as the consumer to get. When we're grateful for the human connections, when we're grateful for the energetic experiences, when we're grateful for the organic mysteries, and when we're grateful for them as part of our daily practice, gratitude is one of the pillars that empower deeper and more powerful healing. Real, genuine healing. Healing beyond that which we ordinarily accept as normal. Coupled with forgiveness, right? And which is the next big lesson coming down the holiday pipeline, isn't it? Why do we celebrate Christ's birth? Because he taught us forgiveness. He died for our sins, right? To show us what forgiveness means. That's a whole nother episode. We'll come back to that in a few days, I'm sure. I want to wrap it up here and leave you spiraling out of control with my crazy ad hoc, always genuine, always sincere, of course, couched in the role play of my fictional world that I'm authoring, as you know. It's like if the characters from your favorite book had a podcast. That's what I'm doing, but the books aren't out, and it's not your favorite book yet because this is all backstory. Our real life is the backstory to my sci-fi fictional world that I'm creating, slowly but surely. And why do I bring that up? Because I humbly invite you to, if you have been listening to this podcast and you've never checked out my social media, please come, engage, join the conversation, help me grow the audience base to this podcast so that it can be much more of a conversation. Each episode can be a lot more about interacting with you, dear listener, than it ever has been. I've been trying to encourage it. I see the download numbers going up, but I'm not seeing a lot of commentary engagement. And I'm not trying to poke fun at you or audience shame anybody. I'm just hopefully warming you up to participating. Thanks for listening to me ramble today about gratitude. I want to encourage you to consider jumping in on the sort of 12 days of insert your favorite thing here. There's how there's 30 days to write a novel and, all those little sort of things. Let's do a gratitude, 12 days of gratitude. Let's see if over the next decade, I think big, right? Let's see if over the next decade, we can build a culture around the holidays that boosts the gratitudiness. What if we, there's the 12 days of Christmas where you're supposed to give, and that's supposed to be about family and building and all this stuff. But, let's do 12 days of gratitude around Thanksgiving, maybe 6 days leading up and 6 days afterwards with Thanksgiving in the middle. And it's not about buying things. It's not about giving things. It's not about eating tons of food. It's about expressing genuine gratitude. It can be about silly things or about deep, meaningful things, about universal things, about personal things. I think the point is to flex that gratitude muscle. If we think of these emotional words as exercises, as activities that our energetic being can flex muscle around, that we can really understand how gratitude as a practice can become very deep and engaging and visceral, and not just saying words over and over again in your head. So, yeah, I'm going to do a few days. I'm going to do like a condensed 12 days of gratitude post soon sometime and do a couple more episodes and talk about things I'm grateful for. And today's, of course, is just grateful that Trumptopia, as wacky and as messed up and as crazy as it is, hasn't already blown itself up. That's a serious thing to be grateful for. No matter what you're angry about right now in this chapter of history, let us all unify in gratitude that we haven't already destroyed ourselves. And if we start there with some gratitude, I think we can do some building of bridges, some healing of divisions, both symbolically and literally, physically and energetically and mentally and spiritually. I'll leave you with those thoughts. I think I've spiraled out of control with this episode, but as always, I humbly thank you for checking it out. I always welcome your questions, your comments, and even your disagreements and your, if you're a hater and you're out to troll me, trust you ain't the first. I'll handle it with grace and comic timing, I think. I don't know. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, I've been your wacky, slightly absent-minded, but earnest and serious, totally fictional character, talk show, podcast, audio journal host, the incorrigible Mr. Zappa.